So today I'm going to share my belief statement, and it is divided into four very simple yet concise points that I've been able to develop through my 2 years teaching already on the middle grades level. The first part of my belief statement focuses on the social development of the young adolescent middle grade student, and that is no child is bad, they're just highly misunderstood. I developed this particular notion when I specifically started working with youth and young adults um, during my undergraduate time through summer camps and academic enhancement academies, and really identifying and learning to learn the student first before I try to cast judgment. And a lot of that helped me, and it also allowed the student to truly be their authentic self. Because one thing I found is that as students are able to be their authentic self, they're able to learn holistically. And then outside of learning the content, they're therefore able to more quickly apply it. And I've been able to try to spread this particular notion to help other teachers to realize that it's not necessarily the student that is bad, they're just misunderstood, and really challenging my coworkers to look beyond the physicality of the student and look at the whole picture. Where did the students come from? What is their background? What is their family lifestyle like? What is their socioeconomic status? What do they come home to every night, if anything? What are they coming to school from? One thing I've most definitely have learned is that some of my students specifically this year have to fight just to make it to the bus stop, literally and figuratively. And it's an interesting journey to take with them throughout that day-to-day interaction from class to class, and just seeing how they interact with other peers and then also other teachers. And that's why I really try my hardest to understand who's in the room. The next component of my belief statement focuses on the academic abilities of my students, which is surmised by my students' abilities aren't or are not defined by a test score. Specifically in the state of North Carolina and various other states across the nation, there is an overwhelming amount of standardized tests that are supposed to communicate or articulate to the teacher, the principal, the district board of education, and then the state board of education, in essence, how a student is performing or how smart a student is in a particular content. And I find that quite troubling because now you're giving a measure to one's abilities. You're giving a measure to one's learning capacity. And I've never been a advocate or proponent for any type of standardized testing because it tells you nothing about the student. This year particularly, when we talk about measures and test scores, I would have what's deemed as the low team or the low group of students. So these are typically the students that have scored a 1 or a 2 on their language arts end of grade assessments in the state of North Carolina. And typically these are the kids that quote unquote would have the behavior problems. They would be the labeled bad children or the problem children in the school. And even though it's only the second week of school, I've come to find that like these are probably some of the most brilliant students. They're just never given a true opportunity to try something different. They've never been challenged, for lack of better words, to be more than what they are. And I've really tried my hardest to, again, meet them where they are socially and then also meet them where they are academically, and therefore building them up to where they need to be on grade level. And I'm always vexed when it comes to data meetings. It's like, well, this student isn't hitting the mark for this particular standard within the Common Core guidelines or the Common Core standards. And so, we need to pocket them together with other kids that aren't meeting that standard. So hopefully we can reloop them or reteach them those standards and those strategies to improve their chances of doing well on a test. And I've always had a problem with that because it's like life is not a standardized test, yet we're consistently shoving test material and test taking strategies down these children's throats. I've been an undergrad just like many of you, and a standardized test that's not college. That is not college whatsoever. And for many of us, we also know in the real world, in the professional field, there is no standardized test. It's consistent application of what you know. And that's what I would love to see more of. Mastery of the content, application of the content, and not a test that just sees how well you can assess the situation and then respond. And that's why I've always looked beyond a test score, looked beyond the number that has been used as a labeler or an identifier for my students, and got to know my students for who they truly are, and then also learning where they are academically so I can utilize that social aspect and build them up academically to where they need to be on grade level or beyond. The next component of my belief statement focuses on student advocacy and student self-advocacy, and is surmised by every student's voice matters. Many of times, we've either experienced or witnessed a child, albeit an elementary school student, middle grades age, or high school aged, being shut down in silence. The old time saying that you're a child and the child should stay in a child's place, or you should be seen and not heard. Gone are those days, unfortunately to say, because these children, these students that we are now acquiring, specifically in that middle grades level, have such an absorbent amount of access to information that many of us didn't have access to until we were in college and then beyond that. And so to, in essence, shut them up or to shut them down has become a defamating act by any educator at any point or time. Because, and I say this mainly looking at the social emotional context of it, that it's if they're being shut down consistently at home by their family, if they're getting shut down consistently by their community or their neighborhood where they live, and then that one safe haven that they felt that they had at their school is shutting them down too, where's their outlet? Where's their opportunity to express themselves? Where's their opportunity to exhibit true learning, which is trial and error? And so I am an animate proponent of this particular notion that every student's voice matters. That if my students, specifically during our class sessions, if they're really animate about a certain topic that at times might deviate from the main content of the lesson, but it still stays on track with the general theme, I'll allow it. Because if they feel that strongly to consistently talk about it and then engage in intelligent conversation with one another where it's respectful and it's intuitive and then it's also critically challenging, why not? Why not allow them to have a space, have an opportunity to voice their feelings, voice their opinions, voice their emotions? Because again, that's one of the things that we're seeing a disconnect with the millennial generation, which I'm a part of, and then the many generations that preceded the millennial generation, that we're not in tune with our emotions, and then beyond that, we don't know how to communicate them. And that's why you see so many issues of domestic violence. You see so many issues of social exhibitions of protest that tends to ultimately lead in violence, unfortunately, because again, people are feeling certain types of way. They're possessing certain feelings, but never have they been given a true space to voice exactly how they feel. But then also, it's one thing to voice it, but then also to be heard and then what they're saying is being applied. The last component of my belief statement focuses on classroom and school culture. And with that, it is surmised that students should have a safe and healthy environment to learn and develop. Those that work with me or have either witnessed my interactions with students always know that I am students first, hands down. There has never been a time that I allow anything to come between me and the work that I need to do for my students. And honestly, I see this master's program as something for my students. I'm developing myself, I'm developing my craft as a teacher to be better for my students. And specifically, when we talk about having a safe and healthy environment to learn and develop, it starts from the moment they either step on that bus for our bus riders, or the moment they step out of that car from with riding with their parents to the school to walking into that door. That first impression, that first mental connection with school, and not just any school, but their school, has a significant role in a student's development as an academic scholar, but then also their social development as just a contributing citizen of society. And I find that students respond very differently given different situations and different learning environments, albeit a all technology driven environment to a paper to pencil uh, environment. Students respond differently to different teaching methods. Those that are very active and energetic and animated and in front of them presenting the information, and then those that also teach from the desk. And with all of this being said, I find that it's a real cognizant effort for from the teachers to the support staff, all the way up to the administrative team, to be intentional about what type of learning environment, what type of school culture are we going to, number one, develop, but then also exhibit consistently to ensure that not only do our students feel safe and that they maintain health, but then also to make sure that they feel welcomed. But then lastly and most importantly, that they're in a space that they know that it's okay to learn. And again, as I made note before in my previous point, that learning is not getting it the first time and saying, oh, okay, I got my A and let's move on. Learning is trial and error. Growth is exhibited when you mess up. Growth is exhibited when you try and try and try and try again. And then you finally get to that ultimate goal of mastery. You get to that level of critical thinking that we're trying to get our students at now, which is college and career readiness. So it's more than just, passing a test. It's analyzing situations, but then also within the school's parameters, ensuring that our students feel safe analyzing these situations, exhibiting the effort and not being afraid to make a mistake, because we have penalized students so much these past years with the shifts into Common Core for some of the states that have adopted it, but then also with the heavy focus on standardized testing to define a student, that we've lost focus of the student being a student, and then forgetting that these are middle grade level kids. These are 11 to 14, 15 years old. They're still growing. They're still learning. But we're expecting them to come in and conduct themselves as college scholars. That doesn't happen because we weren't. So how can we put that type of pressure and that type of expectation on them? So this surmises my belief statement. And I honestly hope that we're able to enact our various belief statements to, in essence, revamp what education is, the educational journey, that educational experience, because it bothers me that I teach eighth grade language arts and I hear my eighth graders consistently complaining that they hate the school. They don't like it there. They feel like it's a prison. They don't feel appreciated. They don't feel heard. That bothers me. And now that I have an opportunity to do something about it, being their teacher, I'm going to. Because I believe every student has the right and the privilege to get all that they desire and deserve to be the best academicians that they can be. Thank you so much for listening to my belief statement.